You don't need training to be selfish. This is natural. It seems to be a paradox, but it's true. We've got to reach higher with the intellect, which some of us heard earlier today. There's something in every human being called an intellect, which is different than just our lower emotions and lower ego. And when we set a goal, whether it's in a company or in a family or for ourselves with the intellect, then that lower selfish person falls off and the whole culture rises.
That's a good point, because at GE we says everyone is a leader, and when every one of us raise, it's like full company.
That's it.
Which rises.
Companies are nothing but a group of people.
Yeah.
For me, what that meant in practice, what Joe was just talking about, is I come from the dark side. So I was in a financial world. I created a company, I was 23, that allowed people to speculate on financial markets. So in life, it's not so much what you do, it is what is the intent behind it. So when I sold the company, I started thinking more about intent. And I think someone here mentioned something about giving back. And when we say, I wanted to give back, our teacher will say, well, what have you taken? You haven't stolen anything. So it's not necessarily about giving back, but it's about finding something of a greater purpose. And again, something that was mentioned earlier, the next generation, people who are even younger than ours, people graduate from MBAs from all over the world. And 40, 50 years ago, they wanted to work for GE and Unilever and Shell. 20 years ago, they wanted to work for Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan. Then they started to want to work for KKR and Sequoia. Now they all want to be impact entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs, because they want another purpose. So yes, of course, everybody has to make money to sustain itself. There's nothing wrong with making money. But it's why do you go to work? What is your purpose? What makes you get up? And for myself, and actually my husband at the same time, we sold our companies in 2009, we decided that we wanted to wake up every day and do something that would make a difference to the world. And I dragged my husband to a conference in Oxford called School. At the end of the day, we found out that this was a group of people, business people. They all do exactly the same things that we do every day. But what they have applied themselves to is to solving the problems of the world. And that is now called impact investing, social enterprise, etc. I think what's emerging is a consciousness and an awareness that you can solve problems, you can do business, you can make products that are responsible, that are self-sustainable, that are financially very viable. But it is very, very hard to convince a bipolar world that these things do exist and they exist successfully. And that's a matter of education, and that will take time.
I think you're talking about social consciousness. And what our teacher, Swami Parthasarathi, is our teacher. He says if there's social consciousness, there won't be a need for social work. And he says if there's no social consciousness, no amount of social work will solve the problems. So, all the religions say love thy neighbor. In Islam, 40 houses in every direction is considered your neighbor. So who's taking care of 40 houses? So we all want to give away so much money, so much, this is all happening, and it's great that it's happening because it's coming from the right spirit. But rather than just practicing social work, we need to develop social consciousness, and that happens in the individual. So this is the long way, but the true way is to develop a wider vision for all individuals to understand the interconnectedness of things. And honestly, if you treat work as rest, if you learn how to convert your work into worship, right, then you're naturally socially conscious. So if you, like we were discussing, if you have a higher ideal that you're working for, each person, and you're absolutely right to say that, no matter what company you work for, you can have a higher ideal for why you work, then that automatically leads to more social consciousness, and you'll be concerned about the person next to you. It doesn't have to be the next country. If each one is concerned about the person next to them, then we have no issue.
We also need to find a more individual purpose, something that is more meaningful to each of us. And it's a role of every one of. It's not only the role of management. I think it's also the role of any one of us to be what I tend to say an energy giver more than an energy taker. And going back to also this, the way we are sometimes in France. You arrive at work. And you have people saying, well, that's the weather is really bad today, and the result was not so good, and the food at the lunch is, you're always highlighting whatever goes wrong. And after you have such conversation, even if you were on a scale of 1 to 10 at 9, starting your morning, like very happy to go to work, suddenly you go down on 6. And if you continue those conversations, you may go lower. And so I'm always asking myself, first, when I start hearing this, I taking some distance with my intellect. I'm saying, don't listen to those people. Just don't listen to them because they are going to take your energy. And the other thing is that I do the same thing for others. Not that I'm perfect at it, but sometimes I'm saying, okay, are you going to give energy to people, or are you just going to drag them down? So being conscious of
What you give.
what you give.
Individuals raise themselves, you raise the world. That's what Swami Vivekananda said. You raise yourself, you raise the world.